There's something deeply unsettling about being the only one awake in a sleeping house. The silence isn't comforting, it's loud. And when you're alone, every creak, every flicker, every shadow feels like a warning. I used to think it was just my nerves, just me being overly cautious. That is, until the night I woke up and spoke to people who weren't there. Beat that like button and subscribe and lock in. I guess it's fair to say that a majority of people don't like sleeping when they're home alone. I mean, if you live alone, you're probably already adjusted, but if you live with people, sleeping when you're home by yourself is a strange and slightly sinister thought. Yet the concept is completely innocent. Who can't close their eyes and sleep just because there's nobody around? It's a trait we perhaps acquired when we were babies. We'd cry if someone left a room. Well, I did anyway. I think about this all the time. When I shower, in class, when I'm out with friends. I've considered maybe it's just me. Perhaps it's my strong bond with my mother. When she isn't in the house, I don't panic, but when it's nearing time for bed and she isn't home, I get nervous. Sweat gathers in my palm and my heart beats faster. The sickening butterflies transform into furious wasps stinging my stomach and remind me that yes, I am scared. Getting ready for bed is slow. I deliberately drag it out. I turn my bedclothes inside out before writing them and putting them on. A sleeve at a time, a trouser leg at a time. Then I turn my whole bed around. I'll take all the sheets off and put them back on. I'll pat them free from stray hairs and dust before writing it once more. I always go downstairs and drink water while simultaneously checking the dark corners of the house. I lock, unlock, and lock the back and front door before tightly pulling on the windows to ensure they're locked too. It's not paranoia. I don't have any kind of overly compulsive disorder. It's just something I do to avoid the journey back upstairs a little longer. I'll check on the cats. They're always sleeping. Not a single sound will stir them when they sleep. And then I'll make the begrudged walk upstairs, past the closed bedroom doors, and I'll get into bed. I'll check texts and emails on my mobile before double checking the alarm. The thought of closing my eyes and having to surround myself with darkness and silence lingers in the back of my mind, taunting me, and the wasps in my stomach dissolve into acid until I feel it's almost painful to endure. And the peculiar thing is, once I cut myself off from the hissing wind outside my window, the little trip of the tap in the bathroom next door, I sleep so soundly and so peacefully that I always wake up feeling refreshed and happy. It's always the best night's sleep I ever have. Until July 30th, 2012. It was a Tuesday night. My mom and sister were sleeping soundly in their rooms whilst I get ready for bed. My slightly odd system is obsolete when there are people in the house. I don't dread the thought of sleeping, so my routine is pretty normal. It was around 11 p.m. when I drifted off to sleep. And then something woke me. At 3:21 a.m., I was wide awake and alert. My brain was active and ready to respond to something. As my wide eyes scanned the darkness of my room, I knew something was wrong. The nervous butterflies were fluttering their wings in the pits of my belly, and I got out of bed, patting barefoot across the cold laminate flooring of my room. The handle was lit up by the light outside. It was the only thing I could see in the dark. It reminded me of one of those horror games, the close-up of the door handle as it turns and the door opens. The light from the hall outside my room was flickering, on and off. Was that what woke me? It wasn't unusual for it to flicker. We haven't replaced the bulb since we moved in years ago, but there was something about the way the light was blinking on and off that made this whole thing more scary. The bathroom to my room was dark, the door slightly ajar, but nothing could be seen inside. To my left was a hall that led to my mom and sister's room. In front of me were the stairs. Everything seemed normal. I could hear soft breathing coming from the rooms beside me and the unmistakable sound of my sister snoring further away. I smiled to myself and felt the butterflies disappear. I still wasn't sure what woke me at this hour, but everything was fine and I was safe. Just to be extra safe, I lightly pushed the bathroom door open further and let the flickering hall light wrap itself around the darkness there. Yep, everything in the bathroom was normal. My breathing went back to normal and I wanted to kick myself at my stupidity. I blamed it on the coffee I'd had before bed and decided a glass of water would cure my dry mouth. The house was silent. The only sound was the buzzing of lights as I flicked them on when I reached downstairs. The cats were where I left them the previous evening, sleeping on the kitchen floor. They didn't even stir when I turned the tab on a little too harshly and the water poured out too fast. Turning the lights off behind me, I glanced at the back door to see it hadn't been locked before. Mom must have forgotten. I inwardly rolled my eyes and turned the key once. The familiar locking of gears in the door made the cat's ears flick, but their eyes didn't open. As I made my way back to the stairs, I saw the hall light had turned completely off, shrouding the staircase in darkness. Taking a tighter grip of the wooden banister, I felt myself up to halfway. "Who's that awake?" A soft voice called from the top of the stairs, and I looked up to see stood at the top, hands on hips and hair in a mess. Even though the features weren't visible, the stance and voice was familiar, and I could have laughed at my previous horrible feeling. "Abby, Mom," I whispered as not to wake the sleeping teenager in the other room. "Wanted a drink." Nothing was said for a moment until I took a step forward and Mom laughed under her breath before taking a step backwards towards her room. "Back to sleep you go." She was back in her room by the time I reached the top of the stairs and bit my lip at the lecture I'll probably receive tomorrow for waking her. Just before I closed my bedroom bedroom door behind me. The creaking of a door startled me. I saw my sister's bedroom door ajar, but the darkness inside was hiding her face. You woke me up. This was great. A trip to get a glass of water, and I'm waking my entire family up. Sorry, Luce. Go back to sleep. I can't see you. Yeah, I leaned over and felt for the hallway light. The light is broken, but I was cut off by the hall light flickering on when I pressed a switch. How strange. The light was obviously a nuisance to Lucy, who groaned and shut her door with a quiet thud. Shrugging, I got back into bed. It was around 3:59 a.m. when I finally got back to sleep, cursing my overreactive brain. It was a slam of a door that jolted me awake this time. It was nearing 7 a.m. and the light from the window was bright. I heard voices downstairs and cursed. If this was payback from last night, it wasn't fair or funny. Padding across the room, I opened my door to see the hall light was still on, not flickering at all. Turning it off, I made my way downstairs. Sat on the sofa was my mom, dressed with her black gym trainers on and a coffee in her hand. She looked exhausted. Had I really been such an annoyance last night? Before she could berate me, my sister hobbled into the room from the kitchen. She was also dressed, and I was shocked to see a cast on her foot. She smiled cheesily at me and plopped herself down on the armchair opposite my mom. Did you go somewhere? I asked, leaning against the door. Mom scoffed and pointed her finger at my sister, who was rolling her eyes. Somebody decided to fall out of bed last night. She fractured her ankle. With raised brows, I looked at my sister, who was nodding miserably. Surprised you didn't wake up. I did around 3. Was it after then? Mom narrowed her eyes. It was around 12. Abby, we've been at the hospital since then. Only just got back. No, I was choking on oxygen, now struggling to breathe and take in this information. I hadn't been fooled last night. I woke you up, both of you, last night around 3 a.m. when I went to get a glass of water. You were dreaming, my sister muttered. We were up at hospital for 6 hours straight. Haven't come home. Besides, if you'd woke me up last night, you would have a bruise on your body. Mom tooted and sipped her coffee. The butterflies were back, quickly changing into wasps before they melted into that familiar acid that makes me almost double over in agony. But this isn't making any sense. I took off up the stairs. I slammed myself into the light switch for the hall light and watched it come on, switch off, and come on every time I switched it. I then peered into my room and felt my heart pound in my chest when I saw the glass of water sitting on my bedside table. Backtracking, I put a hand to my chest as if forcing my heart to slow down. Had I dreamt it? Did I make false conversations in my head? Slowly, hesitantly, I leaned out of my door to see my sister's and Mom's bedroom door shut. I could hear no sleepy snores or soft breathing anymore, and the possibility of me dreaming it all became a well-known story in our house. It was told at Christmas and New Year's, family dinners, and to friends. The night Abby lost her mind, it was nicknamed. And even though the thought of me dreaming was perfectly logical and a rational explanation for what happened that night, I never go to sleep without locking all the doors and checking the windows, even when there are people in the house. And that's why I hate sleeping alone.